Welcome to 28.5, where we explore a unique and authentic perspective on the women's game, break down upcoming matchups, and discuss the latest news and trends in women's basketball. We are your hosts. I'm Sydney Story, and I played at the University of Tennessee under Pat Summitt.
And I'm Becca Goodman, and I played at the University of Notre Dame under Muffet McGraw. And we're thrilled to have you join us today. Before we jump in, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoy what you hear, be sure to tune in each week and support and share the love. Now let's get started with today's episode.
Hey, Becca, how you doing?
Sid, what's up? Long time no talk.
Long time no talk. Excited for episode 3 here.
So pumped. It's a good one.
Yeah, we've got a lot to cover, really. So we're going to jump into the preseason top 10 AP poll, the CBS preseason top 10 list. We've got 6 rivalry games to watch this season. And then we're going to talk about 3 matchups that are happening on Monday, opening day. Finally. Woo, let's get going. We're going to be in season at that point, starting on Monday, November 4th here. So we're going to be jumping in hot and heavy talking women's basketball.
Let's do it. I can't wait.
Of that top 10 list for that AP poll, why don't you take us through that first team?
Yeah, it's only right that the number 1 team is the returning national champ. So we're going to be talking about South Carolina, the Gamecocks here. So they're coached by the great Dawn Staley. In her own right, is an amazing individual, has a huge resume but to follow it as well. She played at Virginia. She was selected by the Charlotte Sting in 1999. I don't want to age anyone, but that was like the beginning of the awesome WNBA, right? So she was a first round, 9th overall pick, 6-time WNBA All-Star. And then she jumped into her coaching career. And I mean, she's just been rolling since then. So she started off at Temple. She was there for 8 years. And right after Temple, dude, she's been at South Carolina since 2008. Talk about just an anchor to your program, the face, the legacy she's building. Absolutely awesome.
Back to 2008, though. So that's when I was playing in the SEC, and South Carolina was just an average team in the SEC, an average team to play. And ever since Dawn stepped in, they dominated. And it didn't take her long to really build that program up, which is kind of amazing. So it just speaks to Dawn Staley and what she's been able to do at South Carolina. And she's really building and has even built a dynasty there. So kudos to her and the new queen of the South. It used to be Pat Summitt for decades, and now I think Dawn has really stepped up into that role. I mean, I like having a female presence in the SEC like Dawn, who is playing in national championships. Yeah, I mean, she's making Final Fours and bringing in great talent, and it's just great for the game to have a team like South Carolina consistently winning games.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of resume, right? As you mentioned, won 3 national championships, 6-time Final Four, 8-time SEC tournament champs, 8-time SEC regular season champs. I mean, she's got it all. And to match that, she's a 4-time Naismith Coach of the Year. And we're just excited to see what she's going to do in this upcoming season with the tools and the players that she's put together, right? So they open up this week on Monday, November 4th against Michigan. So that's going to be an exciting game to see them just really hit the hardwood and get running. So some big time returning players for South Carolina's team is Pow Pow. She was a transfer last year who shot 50% from the 3-point line. That's absolutely insane. Talk about just efficient to come in and make that impact and to be just that confident.
She was amazing in the Final Four. And just ice in her veins, right? She's tested at this point, like you said, 50% from the 3-point line. I mean, not too many players are able to do that. And now she's got a whole nother offseason under her belt. I'm sure she went to work. Pow Pow is hopefully going to get some of those headlines. I think she deserves more credit for what she brings to the game.
Definitely. She's kind of like the steady rock for them. I always felt like when she was in the game, they were running the right offenses, getting the right reads. And you could tell Staley really leaned on her. They also have another 6'5" post player, last name Walker, who's expected to see more minutes because of Cardoza, who graduated and would play in the WNBA for the Chicago Sky. So excited to see that, just that development, right? Dawn Staley's known for developing post players. Asia Wilson, Cardoza. I mean, it's just rebuild, reload.
Leah Boston.
Thank you.
Yeah, Leah Boston.
Leah Boston, like
also
our Fever girl.
we love her at the Fever. Asia Wilson, though, is one of the best post players to ever play the game. So
Facts. Absolutely.
you are dead on when you're saying that Dawn Staley is good at developing post players for sure.
Yeah, there's so many. I forgot one. Like, how ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last one that I wanted to highlight, though, made our top 10 CBS preseason top 10 list. Malaysia Fulwiley. She's a sophomore this year, averaged 11 points per game, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. So, I mean, again, just excited to see what she does this year and kind of the leadership role that maybe Coach Staley starts putting on her and the expectations only growing year over year for her since she had such a great freshman year.
And there is a star-studded sophomore class. We're going to hit that in a little bit here, but she just adds to that sophomore pool of players who are arguably some of the best players in the country. So let's jump into the second ranked preseason team, and that is UConn. This team continues to be in that top 5 list decades over decades, right, at this point. And that's really a testament to Gino Auriemma. He's been the head coach there. He took over for the Huskies in 1985.
Oh my
so
gosh.
before we were born. Yeah. So this guy brings all the experience in the world. In doing a little research on him, I thought it was really interesting that he did not become a U.S. citizen until he was 40. So in 1994, at the age of 40, he became a U.S. citizen. He was born in Italy. So I thought that was kind of a fun fact. But he's 70 years old heading into the season. He's an 8-time Naismith Coach of the Year. He's won 11 national championships.
Man.
Unbelievable, right? That's the most national championships we've seen in our game. He's had 23 Final Four appearances. His record is 1,213 and 162. So he's won 88% of his games since 1985.
That's insane.
It's just insane. So roughly,
unheard of.
Yeah, and you think about the years he didn't win the national championship, so he would have lost that last game of the season.
Right.
And that was 28 of those 162. So roughly 1/6 of his losses came in the NCAA tournament after they didn't win a national championship. So that speaks even more to how successful of a coach he is and how many games he's really won. So, and a lot of people know that, right? Like Gino is top dog with the 11 national championships.
Mm-hmm. When I was playing, it was if you get a win on UConn, it's something to highlight. It's something you're always going to remember. It's news and noteworthy to you for forever. So they were an unstoppable team, and having to play them 3 to 4 times a year, that was really fun. We got one on them though, just one, but I'll take it and we'll roll with it.
That was back in the old school Big East. Used to be a powerhouse women's basketball conference right there. And to highlight the number 1 CBS preseason top 10 list, number 1 is Paige Beckers. So she's returning to UConn. She's a senior this year. Last season, in the 2023-2024 season, she averaged nearly 22 points a game at 21.9 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, and 3.8 assists. Paige Beckers is women's basketball heading into this year. It's going to be interesting to see if Juju takes over that top list, takes over for Caitlin Clark. It's possible, right? Juju Watkins on the West Coast also brings a lot of that hype, but Paige Beckers really brings that seniority coming in as a senior. And she has all the endorsements. She has the experience. She played in the Final Four last year. She needs to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. She needs to keep her knees healthy. She's had surgeries and had to sit out a little bit there, but heading into this season, apparently she's healthy and she's ready to go, and she's coming in at number 1 on that preseason top 10 list. So shout out to Paige Beckers and what she's been able to do. And I hope she continues it. It's good for the game when we have women like Paige Beckers. Some games to highlight. UConn this year has a really tough non-conference schedule. So they play Notre Dame December 12th, already sold out in South Bend. They play USC this year, and they play South Carolina all in the regular season. So that's a tough regular season schedule they've got. And I think that's only going to make them even more tested heading into the NCAA tournament. They open up on November 7th, which is Thursday, against Boston U. So they're jumping right into it, and we're going to see what they do here. I'm sure they'll continue to win most of their games like Gino always has his entire career.
That's definitely the standard, right? And again, just really glad to see Paige back healthy. I hope she has a great year. I think her and Caitlin Clark really set the tone for the press, the NIL stuff. And now that that's really rolling, I think with Caitlin out, it's all that attention's going to go to Paige and Juju. And I know they're already getting some, they already have it, but now just to be able to back it up with all their play and the games and this upcoming season, it's going to be exciting, especially for Paige, because then she goes right into the WNBA season. So like it's literally you had Caitlin Clark, the hysteria around it, and now you have Paige. It's just super exciting and great for our games. Okay, so let's move on to number 3 of the top 10 teams, the infamous USC. I am super excited for this team. I don't know if it's like I'm getting like flashbacks to loving basketball days, and I'm like just loving where they're going and how they're beefing up their team. They're reloading and just really going to become a dominant force. Lindsay Gottlieb, their head coach, 47 years old, went to Brown. Her coaching career, she assisted at 4 universities. Then she became the head coach at UC Santa Barbara, California, and then an assistant for the Cleveland Cavaliers for 2 years. That is just absolutely awesome. Great for our game. That's something Niele Ivey did at Notre Dame, and I know Becky Hammond did. And then she went right to a WNBA coaching job. So it's just really awesome to see where the lines get crossed from the women's game to the men's game, especially at the NBA level. Highlight it. Want to give her props. Sid, you want to give her some too?
Yeah, that's like super cool. I think about women in the huddle at the NBA level is just something that growing up we didn't see a ton of. Obviously, Becky Hammond stepped in there, was able to do that as one of those first females really with the Spurs to have that big presence. But to see other coaches be able to do it is really great for the women's game. And then when they come back to the women's game, they're better coaches for it. I'm sure they learn a ton in the NBA and it makes our game better overall. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So she took over as the head coach in 2021, and last season they were Pac-12 tournament champs. So obviously we're going to highlight the number 2 player on the CBS preseason top 10 list, Juju Watkins. Talked about her quite a bit in episode 2, but for those who didn't maybe see that, go back and download it. But jumping in here, she's headed into her sophomore season. She's averaging 27.1 points per game. I'm sorry, what? Like almost 30 points a game your freshman year? Insane. Wasn't there one game where she had like 45 or 50 points? Yeah. I should have had this fact ready to roll. I'm sure I'll bring it up when we highlight some of their other games. But not only that, she's getting to the glass. She averages 7 rebounds and 3 assists per game. So Juju is Jujuing, right? Like she's dominating, and she was a freshman. I'm really excited to see her this coming year with another year of postseason work under her belt. And then again, all those pieces that they're adding to the team as well.
To me, Juju is not to knock Paige Becker's senior this year. She's going to have probably an amazing senior season, but Juju is the next Caitlin Clark for our game. And the fact that she's now stepping into the Big Ten with USC being added to the Big Ten. I've mentioned this before, but she now has this opportunity to wow the Midwest. Yep. Like Caitlin Clark did. The Midwest, and certainly the entire country got behind Caitlin Clark, but now that Juju's going to be under that Big Ten spotlight, and she's going to be playing all new conference teams that have a lot of women's basketball following. It's an awesome opportunity for her just to get her name out there even more. And boy, does she back it. She is unbelievable. And she's all over the endorsements. We're going to see more and more commercials with her, which is a ton of fun. There's already a couple that have been out there. And I love that. I love watching the women's basketball game and it cuts to the commercials and you see women's basketball players.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
That's the fun of all of the NIL to me. And I'm glad that she's able to capitalize. And there are other players certainly as well that are able to do so. So Juju Watkins, everyone, number 2 on that CBS preseason top 10 list.
Yeah. You know what I love? I saw a lot of off-season interviews with her, and she was just so calm and mild temper, almost like Kobe Bryant-like, where he's just like, when you talk to him off the court, he's just very factual, matter of fact, he's very steady. But then on the court, it's like, man, his play just dominates. So again, super excited for her sophomore year. USC opens up against Ole Miss again on November 4th. That is Monday, another big day for women's basketball. And they play Ole Miss, who's also ranked in the preseason top 25, and they come in at number 20.
Yeah, that's going to be a good opening game for sure. Let's jump into the 4th ranked team headed into the season, and that is Texas. So Texas now joining the SEC. They're going to be in a much, in my opinion, tougher conference for women's basketball. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle that, but it's going to be a season that tests them heading into the tournament. And need to mention their head coach, Vic Schaefer, because he has done some amazing things throughout his career. He's 63 years old. He grew up in Houston. He's a Texas guy. So to see him at Texas, I think makes a ton of sense. He was at Texas A&M from 2003 to 2012, won a national championship in 2011. He was at Mississippi State from 2012 to 2020. He made the Final Four back-to-back years in 2017 and 2018. Naismith Women's College Coach of the Year in 2018. And he's just a great coach. I think he brings that presence to Texas. He brings the X's and O's. I think Texas is going to be really good this year. They were good last year, right? But I think this year they're even going to be better. And some of that is the health of their players. They have Rory Harmon, who's going to be back this year. She only played 12 games last season. She's number 9 on the CBS preseason top 10 list. They have Madison Booker, who is a sophomore. She's number 5 on that CBS preseason top 10 list. So they've got some really good basketball players that are coming back and playing at Texas this year. Madison Booker averaged 16.5 points per game last year. And Rory Harmon, while she was healthy, she averaged 14.1 points per game. So right there is a ton of scoring for the Texas Longhorns heading into that NCAA tournament at probably a pretty high seed if they can win a lot of these games throughout the regular season. So shout out to Texas coming in at number 4 preseason. Let's go Longhorns.
Very exciting. Definitely. All right, we're going to jump into our second topic of the day, is where we're going to just highlight at a quick level the full top 10 preseason list. So we had our South Carolina, UConn, USC, Texas, and then we're going to jump to 5. So we have UCLA. We have number 6 is Notre Dame. LSU comes in at 7, Iowa State at 8, NC State at 9, and Oklahoma at 10. So obviously, I'm going to go back to number 6, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And we're just going to talk about how pumped we are for this upcoming season. Oh, man. Niele Ivey went and got one of the best freshmen coming into this 2024 class. Her name's Kate Cavall. She's 6'5". That's definitely going to help us out inside. We always kind of seem to have smaller post players that are a bit more, agile, almost like stretch 4s playing inside, but to have a big body, 6'5", and dude, she can handle the ball. She can shoot the 3. It's all the types of players you want and the skill set in a 6'5" body. So super excited to see her. We have all of our returning starters coming back. Sonia Citron, Hannah Hidalgo, who obviously is one of our players we're going to highlight. Had a great freshman season, absolutely killed it, shredded all records ever possible, ever made. Had a ton of just buzz around her. She plays with a ton of passion, very Skylar Diggins-like. And then we also have Olivia Miles coming back. So she's back and healthy. She sat out all last season. So we're going to have quite the dynamic duo, the 1-2, right? I'm excited to see them play together. I can't wait to see how our offense is going to run. And just the tempo. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is like tempo. Olivia, when she was there running the ship, was very fast up and down. Hannah obviously did the same thing. So now we have 2 options at the guards, and I'm excited as all heck to see them. We also got some great transfers coming in. So they've been able to work out over the summer, and just excited to see how they gel. Anybody you want to highlight, Sid, from the top 10 that we didn't fully dig into, but just at a high level?
Yeah, UCLA at number 5 there. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch this year. I think them stepping into the Big Ten, again, they're going to be able to come over to the Midwest, over on the East Coast with Rutgers and Maryland, and get their name out there a little bit more on the women's basketball scene. Kiki Rice is who comes to mind for me for UCLA. Very good guard, very heady guard, strong IQ, can knock down jumpers. She got some hype last year, but I think she's really going to make more waves this year if she continues to step up and really went to work this offseason. So I think UCLA is going to be not a dark horse, right? They're coming in at number 5. They're on everyone's radar, but I think that they could really, if they're driving and they're playing well, I think they could really make a Final Four this year. So to me, that UCLA jumps out on this list as a team to really watch as well. And NC State made the Final Four last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now they returned some players. They got that experience. They got a taste of the Final Four. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with that in this season. And can they continue to make a name for themselves, continue to win the big games? I think they can. So that's going to be one on this list that I'm also going to be watching. They're at number 9 there. And as you mentioned, Notre Dame. I think that they've got one of, if not the best backcourt in the country this year. You mentioned it, Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles. How do they gel together? How does that work? I think a lot of fans are anxious to see that or excited to see that because with both of them together, I don't see how teams bring the ball up the floor. Honestly, like you throw a full court press at anybody, and both of those players are so smart, are fast, have an explosive first step, are great defenders, and then offensively, they also bring it. And you mentioned that there's the big transfer on the post side. So does Notre Dame have enough power behind the players they're going to put on the court this year? Absolutely. Another team that, in my mind, could make that Final Four and arguably should with who they've got. Sonia coming back. I mean, there's some great experience
Maddie
there.
Westbeld.
So, yeah, I mean, if you live in this area and you can make it to a Notre Dame women's basketball game this year is one of the years that could go down in the history books for Notre Dame. So I think that's going to be amazing to watch.
And I also want to highlight that we have a transfer, Liza Carlin. She came from Marquette under Megan Duffy. So we kind of highlighted that on episode 2. Megan Duffy leaving Marquette to go to Virginia Tech. And Liza, in that meantime, we were able to grab her and she was their leading scorer. So very excited to see her and just the whole team go Irish.
All right, let's cover that CBS preseason top 10 list. So let's jump in there. We already mentioned Paige Beckers coming in at number 1, Juju Watkins at number 2. Number 3 is Anissa Morrow at LSU. So again, going to bring back some of that experience. She's a senior this year. Last season, she averaged 16.4 points per game with 10 rebounds per game. So we're talking this is a big guard. She transferred from DePaul. She brings some of that skill set where she's got that mid-range game. She can elevate and pull.
Yes.
And I talk about that a lot when we're trying to coach players and teach players is like, can you get to the rack? Can you knock down that open 3 when you're wide open? But can you score in the mid-range? Do you have a 1-2 step pull up? Can you make that read? Do you have that feel in the game? And Anissa Morrow does. She naturally just does it. So watching her play is really fun. I'm not surprised that she's number 3 on this list because she is that good. So I think for LSU, if you're turning on and watching games this year, Anissa Morrow is going to be making headlines and really doing her thing out there. Hannah Hidalgo at number 4. I'm going to let you highlight Hannah a little bit more here, Becca, because she is that great.
We're going to highlight the highlights. All right, let me get my highlighter. Headed into her sophomore season. I mean, this girl broke all types of records. Like I should have a list and I should have it, printed next to my computer screen because it's off the charts. It's absolutely insane. Averaging 22.6 points a game, 6.2 rebounds, 5.5 assists. I mean, I know this year is going to be a challenge for them just because there's one ball and a ton of great talent. But I saw some preseason interviews where they literally were like, we don't care. We just want to win. So if we keep that right mindset, I'm so excited, not only for what the team can do, but Hannah herself, right? Imagine that going into a sophomore season, understanding your role might change, but being equally as successful because your team's successful. So super excited to see Hannah coming in at the 4 spot and what she's going to do this year.
For sure. And we mentioned it, number 5, Madison Booker from Texas. Number 6, Georgia Amore, who has now transferred to Kentucky, and she is a great point guard, right? She's only 5'6". She's just so much fun to watch. She averaged 18.8 points per game last season and 6.8 assists per game last season. So she's just one of those players that you turn on the TV and you're like, wow, who is that girl? And if I have a kid that's trying to play basketball, please watch her and model your game after her. I mean, she's that good and makes our game better. Kiki Iriafen, she's a grad transfer from Stanford. She comes in at number 7. She's a forward. Last season, she averaged 19.4 points per game, 11 rebounds per game. I mean, she was Stanford to me last year. So to see her at USC.
Oh, man. Adding
what do you even say there? I don't even know. They're going to be so good. They're so her and Juju together.
I know. Again, just to see that change. That we've highlighted a ton of them, but that is one specifically. That is a guard post combo. Both can handle it. Both maybe get in the pick and roll game. Both just read, react, play off of defenses and score. Those two score, period. That is what they do. That is who they are to a core. And to see them team up, man, it's almost like we're talking like the NBA started getting like the big 3, the big 5. I feel like that's the era we're in right now in women's college basketball. It's pretty crazy, but also very interesting to see. I can't wait. I'm tuning in. I'm going to love it. I'm going to take my notes and eat my popcorn.
Yeah. How do you not just isolate them on the wing
All
all day and let
all
them
day.
play 2-man game all day?
Yeah.
And how do you
Yep.
guard that? That's a serious defensive problem for every team they play. It's a big deal for USC. And Kiki's a grad transfer from Stanford. She learned the game under Tara. Now she's bringing some of that knowledge and that experience. And yeah, USC is going to be the real deal. Audie Crooks comes in at number 8. She's at Iowa State. She's a sophomore center. Last year, she averaged 19.2 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game. You got anything to say about Audie Crooks? Because I know you're a fan.
Yep. She is the epitome of going old school, back to the basket, post up, dominate. Big body, uses it well. Had a phenomenal big time freshman year, averaging almost 20 points a game, and was the go-to inside. She's super tenacious, really aggressive, and I'm excited to see what Iowa State does, especially with her and maybe some pieces that they add with this upcoming freshman class. And maybe they hit the transfer portal too, and have some big pieces they can also add there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then number 9, Rory Harmon, we mentioned, from Texas. And number 10, Malaysia Fawali from South Carolina. I do want to say, of the top 10 CBS preseason list, 5 of these 10 players are sophomores.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
It's great for our game. I'm so excited about that because we potentially have all of these players for 3 more seasons: sophomore year, junior year, senior year.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that. Okay, let's jump into 6 rivalry games that we wanted to highlight that you should watch. You should tune into for the upcoming season that starts on Monday. So by date, we're going to walk through these 6 matchups. Some of them are rivalries for every sport, right? But some of them are specific rivalries to women's basketball, and we'll kind of highlight that. So December 11th, we've got Iowa versus Iowa State.
In-state rivalry.
In-state rivalry, a rivalry for every sport, but also one that's going to be a ton of fun to watch this year. Iowa returning a lot of those players that played in the national championship game. Obviously, Caitlin Clark is gone.
Kate Martin's gone.
But there's a ton returning.
Yep. Gabby from the wing.
She brings it on defense. Probably their best defender.
Yep.
From
Hannah
last year.
Stolke inside.
Hannah Stolke from inside. She's a walking bucket when they need one. So that's going to be fun for them. And then with Iowa State, we have from the top 10 list, Audie Crooks. She's that sophomore center. So that's going to be a big player that they're going to have to watch out for on the Iowa side. So really highlighting that game. Again, that's December 11th. So that's coming up quick. And if you're a Hawkeye, you got to try to defend that turf. And if you're a Cyclone, you're like, no, this is our turf. So it's going to be interesting to watch it. And I think for Jan Jensen, this is big for her. When you're an Iowa coach, you've got to be able to beat Iowa State. She can do it for sure. It's going to be interesting to watch that one. The next one I want to highlight is Notre Dame versus UConn.
Sid, I think I should highlight this one.
Okay, you got it, because you lived this rivalry, so go for it.
Well, as I'm sitting here just thinking about this game, and I know they have it circled on their calendar, I know it's something that they're already prepping for and how they play, and that they're just ready to bring it, and playing them so many times previously to only kind of have this game pop up every now and then, it's something you want to have, bragging rights for. So we have the Notre Dame versus UConn matchup December 12th. It's already sold out. I'm hoping myself I get to go. I hope there's some alumni tickets I can grab. But again, just to see the Irish versus the Huskies, Niele versus Gino, and everything they've accomplished. And not only that, but it just really seems like both programs are always able to rebuild and reload as of recently. Adding in transfer pieces, having folks healthy. Paige Beckers is back, Olivia Miles, add Hannah in there. I don't know how excited I'm going to be, but I know every day it's just getting closer, and it's on the calendar, and it's something we talk about from the Notre Dame standpoint, defending home court, having them come in and just kind of starting that. It's early on in the season, right? Early December. So it kind of sets you up for what we like to call the 3rd or 4th season after the new year. Just super excited to see this game. I can't pump it up enough. Just
Absolutely. Thrilled. For me, growing up in South Bend, I was in the gym in 2001 when Notre Dame beat UConn, and the entire gym started chanting, "We're number one."
Oh,
it was like, I was 11 years old. For me, I knew right then, I was like, I want to play college basketball. This is the coolest thing ever for
Mm-hmm.
females to be able to do this. Big pivotal moment in that rivalry where Muffet was able to beat UConn when they were number one on Irish turf. And that was the year that they went to win it all, right? Ruth
Yep.
Riley, Neil Ivey was the point
Yep.
guard, Kelly Siemens. I mean, I could go on and on some of those players that to me were my idols when I was a little kid. So that rivalry runs deep.
Yeah. Like decades deep. Yeah, I was just gonna say for you to mention 2001 when they first won it, that is Niele playing and having that type of just wanting to all out win it. And that stems from her being in as an assistant coach when I was there to now as a head coach and wanting to just kind of, take that mark as like a badge of honor. And again, just have it year in and year out would be great.
Yes, absolutely. And then we also want to highlight Texas versus Oklahoma. Again, another one of those rivalries for every sport. And now both of them are in the SEC. So it's in a different conference this year. Texas coming in preseason, high ranking. Oklahoma going to be able to make it a tough game. So that's a good one to watch. That's January 2nd, 2025. Then my alma mater, Tennessee versus UConn.
I'll go on.
Yes, yeah. Orange runs through my veins, and I'm hoping this year we can bring it against UConn. What a signature game for a Lady Vol and a Lady Vol fan against UConn, February 6th, 2025. We've got Kim Caldwell as the new coach this year. This could really put her on the map.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
This could be the game for the Lady Vols this year that really makes a statement in the regular season. Obviously, we're going to have to play LSU and South Carolina and Texas and these other top-ranked programs in the SEC, but to be able to beat UConn and beat Geno is one of those games that you circle every year on your schedule. So that one, again, is February 6th, 2025. And then the last one we want to highlight is UCLA versus USC. That's February 13th, 2025. So again, UCLA, USC, a rivalry for every sport. But
West Coast.
But this year, both teams are star-studded. Both teams top 5 into the season, and they're going to beat each other up. They beat each other up last year, had some really tough matchups last year. Expect this year to be even tighter, and I think that's going to be really a fun game to watch on February 13th there. So with that, we're going to jump into opening week next week, Monday.
Week one.
We are here.
Whew. I have chills just thinking about it.
Yes.
So starting off, we want to highlight three of the big matchups, right? Whether that's preseason rankings, maybe it's both teams are preseason ranked, or it's just an overall great team that you want to kind of see what the other one's going to put up. Our first one we want to highlight is going to be UCLA versus Louisville. We've talked a lot about UCLA, talked about the games they have coming up, but I do want to highlight Louisville for this aspect. They signed the number 6 high school recruiting class in the country. Also went in, got some great picks from the portal. And last year they went 21-10, and it was the first time they didn't win in the first round of the NCAA tournament. And that was the first time under Jeff Walz in 18 years as a head coach that hasn't happened. So, he's going to be firing on all cylinders. With that being the year, also Haley Van Lith transferred to LSU. So a sense of pride there. He's going to get after it. He's going to make sure that team is ready to rock and roll. And then just highlighting UCLA last year was 27-7. So they not only that, they had a good season last season. So this is going to be a great game just to kind of see where all the chips fall, right? Sid, who do you got in this game? If you had to pick one, where you rocking?
I'm going with UCLA. It's so hard for me to go against Kiki Rice. I think maybe a little chip on her shoulder because Juju's gotten so much hype over on the West Coast, and that's the rivalry school for UCLA. So I think she's going to, from the get-go, game one, really try to bring it. Louisville is going to have to try to stop her. Right. I'm going UCLA.
I'm going to double thumbs that up.
Double
down. Also rolling with UCLA.
It's probably going to be a close game, though. Jeff Walz isn't going to not have his team prepared.
He's going to have some sort of like matchup defensively. He's going to run a triangle and 2, maybe he will figure out some amoeba defense to try to slow them down just to help them compete even more so. So I agree with you. It's not going to be easy, and that's going to be Monday, November 4th.
Second game we want to highlight for opening day is South Carolina versus Michigan. So I will
The champs
Again,
are here.
the champs are here. Give a shout out to Dawn Staley for trying to really put women's basketball on the map even more. So last year, South Carolina opened up with Notre Dame in Paris, France.
Mhm.
This year, South Carolina is opening up with Michigan in Vegas. So Dawn really going after some of these grand opening games, which is great for our sport. I wish we had more of this. I think Michigan's got their hands full in this one for sure because South Carolina is returning a ton of folks, less Cardoso, which is a big loss for them. But like as you mentioned, they've got that other big post player that should be able to step right in. That game is again Monday. And Michigan, like I said, they're going to have to really bring it. They were 20-14 last season. They just had an exhibition game last week where they won 81-52. It was a win over Northwood. And Kim Barnes has been coaching at Michigan for a while now. She's won 66% of her games. And she's gonna, like you mentioned, with Louisville having to bring some type of scheme, she's gonna have to do that against South Carolina because South Carolina is so deep. That's why they were so good last year. Dawn could put in the bench, and the bench could compete with anybody. And she's got that again this year. So how do you slow that down? How do you keep the game tight and close and not let it get away from you? I think that's going to be the challenge for Michigan. I'm also giving away my pick there. I'm going with South Carolina.
Oh, I'm going to double down on that yet again. So jumping into our third and final matchup that we want to take a peek at here, it's going to be USC versus Ole Miss. They play Monday, November 4th. Now, I know we've talked about USC time and time again here, but quick high level, they were 29-6 last season, and they are ready to go. We've talked about the transfer. We've talked about Juju. Excited to see them on the court, but I will just highlight, Ole Miss, 24-9 last season. I feel like they play with that chip on their shoulder. Coach Yo has them ready to go every game. You're going to fight, you're going to battle, and you're going to come out just with a sense of pride. And I think that's why they were able to have such a great season last year. 24-9, they're knocking on the door at possibly getting some nice upsets this season and giving themselves a chance to get in the top 10. Who knows? But I just know Coach Yo is the motor, the energy, and exactly somebody I would want to play for because she's going to chest bump you when you run off the court. And I'm excited to see this matchup because I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. They know this game's been on the calendar. They know it's Juju and Kiki coming in. But I think Coach Yo just has a great job of highlighting who they are, how they can win, and play within yourself to be successful. And I'm going with USC, but close. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a good game. What about you, Sid?
I agree. I think to myself, how do you stop Juju?
Yeah. Well.
And that's going to be the biggest challenge for everybody this year. I also think Juju, like Kiki Rice over at UCLA, Juju's going to come out for USC and really try to grab the reins and say, hey, I'm here and I can play this game and watch me drop 40. She potentially could do that in this game. So I think that's going to be really fun to watch as they play Ole Miss. I would like to say that two of these three matchups that are happening on Monday that we're highlighting are Big Ten versus SEC. And that's great for our game to be able to start opening day and to see some of those big matchups. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to really look at these games and come back on here and give some of that post-game analysis of what we saw and how some of these big players stepped up or didn't step up. That's going to be an interesting thing that we're going to be able to come back and re-loop in the next episode. So stay tuned for that as we head into episode 4 and really talk about what happened in some of these games and then continue to highlight the upcoming matchups. I do want to say before we conclude here, we are working on some interviews. So we're going to try to sprinkle those in as some bonus episodes that will drop throughout the week sporadically until we get more of a cadence going, but we will always have those Friday drops that are going to highlight the upcoming matchups for the upcoming week and also give that post-game analysis from what we just saw. And of course, talk some of the drama with all the players and everything that will transpire throughout the season.
Excited for this season for us and women's basketball. I think it's just all good stuff. We're really going here. We're going somewhere. And I just think the women's game as a whole, I wanted to add one little thing. You mentioned how good this sophomore class is. If this is the standard for girls coming in now, like imagine our freshman class that we know a little bit about, but we haven't really seen them play the college game yet. I'm excited to see how much this game has changed for the better because it deserves it. It's earned it. and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So I hope you all enjoyed episode 3.
Yeah. And for everyone out there, come Monday, welcome to the season. Let's do this. Let's do it. I'll talk to you soon, Beck.
All right. See you, Sid. That's the 28.5 final buzzer for today's episode. Don't forget to hit follow on your preferred podcast platforms to catch every play-by-play. New episodes drop each week throughout the season.
If you've enjoyed our courtside chat, drop us a review or follow us on our social media accounts. And remember, from females who have played the game, the size of the ball matters.